Hi, this is Geertjan from the NetBeans team, and in this screencast I want to talk to Tony Epple, who has been working with Jaroslav Tulach on something that I've tried for many months to understand, but hopefully we'll get further with now, because today Jarda published a Minesweeper plugin that implements some of the solutions that this particular solution provides. So maybe Tony can tell us more what it is and how we get started using it.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tony, and I'm basically a user of the DukeScript infrastructure, and I would like to tell you a little bit more. But we decided that this is going to be work like Geertjan is asking me questions.
Yes.
And I'm trying to answer them.
And we're drinking beer at the same time.
We're drinking beer. That's important. So as you mentioned, there's a new plugin, a very, very important plugin. So if you go to NetBeans plugins, available plugins, and maybe check for updates, check for newest, and then look for Minesweeper.
Minesweeper, there it is. Demonstration of DukeScript rendering technology, plus old, good, simple and entertaining game. Improve your coding skills by playing the game, and meanwhile learn what a rendering technology of the future is going to look like. Learn to use DukeScript. Write once, display and deploy anywhere.
Perfect.
Now
description.
Of course, I'm going to be wondering what DukeScript is and how Minesweeper relates to DukeScript and things like that.
Right. Okay.
So maybe you can explain.
No, I don't want to explain. You have to ask me.
I just asked you.
Yeah, you asked me to explain, but that was not the deal. You said I'm not allowed to do a presentation. You're going to ask me.
Yeah. So my question is, what is DukeScript?
Okay. DukeScript. The idea of DukeScript is to use modern browser-based technology like HTML5 to create nice applications. What are you doing?
Where should I see this sample?
It's up here.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Fine.
And the problem with modern browser-based technologies currently is that there is a language called JavaScript, and we don't want to use that. So DukeScript enables you to code HTML5 applications fully in Java, and also, as you can see, to integrate them in a Swing application like this NetBeans IDE. And you can go down here,
Play,
yeah, and you can start playing Minesweeper.
Okay.
Are you any good at Minesweeper?
I'm not completely sure what
Let's find out.
What Minesweeper is.
You don't know Minesweeper?
So you can explain also what Minesweeper is.
Okay, Minesweeper is an application where there are hidden bombs and you shouldn't click them.
Okay.
And like up here, you've got these lots of ones.
Yeah.
And these tell you that there is one bomb in a field next to them.
Yeah.
So it's one of the fields around.
So there's one around here.
So there's definitely one here in this field.
Okay.
Okay, if you
So
click there, there's a bomb. You
so
shouldn't do this. What you're probably doing now.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Okay, so that's Minesweeper.
Yeah, and it's a game that used to be a part of Windows, Microsoft Windows. And the cool thing about this game is that first off, it's NetBeans platform plugin, which is a cool thing in itself.
Yeah.
And the second cool thing is that it's using HTML5 for the rendering, but the application logic is written in Java.
So this is the interesting part, the fact that the application logic is written in Java.
Yeah.
And then it integrates with NetBeans IDE.
Yeah. So the basic thing that DukeScript is trying to solve is that a lot of companies nowadays are trying to create applications using HTML5 because they like the technology, the rendering, the APIs that are available, but they don't like JavaScript. because they are afraid of JavaScript. It's a dynamically typed language.
Yeah.
So the tooling support is not so good, and there are no concepts for modularization.
Yeah.
And so the cost of ownership is very high. You have to write very many tests, and it's very hard to maintain. So that's the idea why it would be better to code that in Java.
But isn't there this plugin that gives us a project template for getting started creating these Java HTML5 applications?
Yeah, but there you would have to...
This one.
Ah, sure.
So this is Yarda's...
this is another plugin that you can use.
A different plugin that gives you a starting point for creating these kinds of applications.
These kinds of applications,
yeah,
right. Yeah. But you can also start by just using Maven.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what version of DukeScript this is using. But we will find out.
We'll find out. So just to understand again clearly what this is. So this is rendered in HTML5,
yes,
but programmed in Java.
Yeah. So the idea is there's a rather modern concept for creating user interfaces that's called model view model. And the idea behind that is that the view itself would create some bindings, would bind itself to a data model, which is the view model. And the view model is written in this case in Java, and the view is written totally in HTML5. So what you can do is, like, you can have a designer. Obviously we didn't have a designer for this one, but you can have a designer to create an HTML5 page. Mm-hmm. And you can just add some tags, standard knockout JS tags in this case, and write the application logic in Java. So when somebody presses a button or does something, Java code is executed and modifies the model, and through the modification of the model, the HTML5 page will update itself.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, and so you see it integrates in NetBeans platform.
So you could create modules in
sure,
for NetBeans IDE or any NetBeans platform application where the UI is written in HTML.
Exactly.
With any framework you want. You could use AngularJS inside of this.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
But if you use AngularJS inside of that, you would have to code JavaScript, because there's no API for that yet.
But is there
but
any
it's
way
very easy to create an API for that.
But is there any way in which something that I do inside of this top component can interact with something else, like a save action? Can that
yes,
be enabled from here?
Yes, and on Yarda's blog there is an example that does exactly that. That creates such a view like this that provides context. So like, you know, the concept of lookup. So it basically does something like that,
okay,
puts something into a lookup. So you can enable actions and you can really interact with it. And the Java code that is behind that is regular Java code that is executed in the virtual machine of that is running NetBeans.
So this is a solution for desktop applications, to design your desktop application with HTML in the UI. It's not a mobile solution. It's not a web solution, or.
Unfortunately, it's all of what you mentioned.
Oh.
It's all of that as well.
Okay, because it can be reused, or
because the concept really applies. You need two components basically. You need a JVM and you need a browser. And everywhere where you have these two pieces, you can put them together and create something like this and run these applications.
Okay, let's see what it looks like. Let's see what. So here's an example.
Yeah.
A starting point. I don't think there's a sample, but there's simply a project template to get you started.
I guess it's the words demo that Yarda created.
So already we can see that we have here a Maven archetype.
There are several Maven archetypes. There's for a couple of different demo applications, and also for different APIs. Like these examples that Yarda created are using a specific API, which is basically something like you can think of it as a plugin to DukeScript. And
so I still want to know what DukeScript is. Where do I see DukeScript in this I mean, to me, a script is a language in a particular file. So
yeah, DukeScript, the name is basically trying to illustrate the fact that we are actually putting Java into JavaScript, and JavaScript itself doesn't have any Java. But DukeScript puts the Duke into JavaScript, real Java into
putting the
JavaScript.
Duke into JavaScript.
Exactly.
Okay, so where do I go to see something useful?
Okay, this is perfect. Main is always a good place to start.
Okay.
So in this main method, you see you've got this browser builder, and this browser builder creates a component. It creates a new browser, and it depends on the implementation and on the platform where you deploy to, what browser will be actually created.
Okay.
It could be, like in this case, a JavaFX web view component. It could also.
How do you know that this is a JavaFX web view component?
I don't know that because the idea is that there can be different implementations in the background, and depending on what libraries you pack with it, you will have different browser implementations. So this is platform independent code, and
so where is the implementation of this? Or where is selected that?
There are implementations in here in your dependencies, in the runtime dependencies.
So at first we need to build this.
Okay. So what happens here is we can go through. I think it's a good idea to just go through these.
Yes, sure.
Methods. So what it does is the browser builder creates a new browser. So it might be a JavaFX web view in a different context. It might be some kind of iOS component or an Android browser, whatever. And then it loads a page. Page is index.xml. You can see that it's under the web pages node.
Okay. So it loads this page.
It loads this page, and then it also loads a class. Okay, let's go to the page first.
Yeah.
So what you can see here, up here, is some CSS, and the CSS defines some animations. That's the designer's job.
Yeah.
Okay, the designer defines animations and stuff like that, and styles. And then we have this input with a data bind. And this is knockout.js.
Right, this is knockout, this stuff. Yeah.
So we bind to something. We bind to a function, we bind to, like for example here, the button is bound to a function turn on. So when it's not on, then turn on is going to be executed. And so this is what looks like a just regular knockout.js basically. And but the interesting part is in the data model. But go back to the main first.
Okay.
So here you see you load a class, the main class, and invoke onPageLoad.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at onPageLoad.
Where do we see?
In here.
Oh, okay. So this refers to a method inside the same class. Okay.
So what we create is a new data, and then we say set message and apply bindings. Okay? And the data class is the model that is behind the index.html. This is what you're actually binding your components in HTML to. You saw this data bind markup.
So where is this data?
Go to data model.
So this is called data somehow. Okay, class name is data.
Exactly. Yeah. What you see here in the data model, this is basically the controller behind that. So you see there is an annotation on top, data, and it has properties, message and on. And what happens in the background, there's an annotation processor, and this annotation processor creates a class, and this class is named data, and you can use it in here. Just like with any annotation processor that works at compile time, it can create a class for you. So, and in here you see methods.
I see all kinds of interesting annotations, computed property and the function. So these are special annotations that come from the DukeScript framework.
Exactly. So the function, for example, is tells the system that this is a function that can be called from JavaScript. So you see the turn on and turn off. And if you switch to index.html, you will see there is root turn on, root turn off.
Okay.
So when you click the button, one of these methods will be called.
So I click it. So there's a button here, and there's another button there.
Right.
When I click them, so root is like a scope, some kind of scoping
exactly.
variable, like an Angular, at least in Angular. Yeah. So when you click, so what does root actually mean?
Root is actually the reference to the data in this case, to the data model here.
Yeah, and this was bound into this, the connection between the data model and the HTML. How is that set? So how is this connection set between these two?
This is set in the main.
In the main, via that browser.
So you saw you see
builder.
here, data, new data, apply bindings.
And the bindings.
The apply bindings creates the binding between the index.html page and the data object.
But where does it say that this index.html page should be bound to this data model?
This is done by the browser builder. The
Okay,
browser
so
builder
here
sets the context.
So here is the index.html.
Right.
And
here's this main class, and it creates a new data.
On-page load
so
connects them together.
So the index.html is the context of this class.
Okay, and there's another thing in here called main browser. Main on-page load. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is specifically for launching. I don't know exactly how that works actually, because I wasn't involved in that part.
So if you run this,
what you should see is in this case allow access firewall.
this part I'm going to edit out for sure. So all this I will cut out until
yeah, sure.
the point where it...
Well, it's Maven, so...
Okay, so what we're now seeing is Words demo, start and stop.
Just wait a second. Now it's ready.
What we're now seeing is Words demo with a text field, our two buttons, and this all broken up into separate things. So where does this text come from that we see here?
The text was set in the main method, so on page load.
So on page load.
Yeah, you see here.
Okay, here's
data
the
set
message. Okay.
So you can change that.
I can change this here, and then just save it.
Yeah, just restart the application now.
And what we're seeing here is the JavaFX web view.
And this is JavaFX web view.
Yeah.
So this is one of the implementations basically of browser. So browser builder creates JavaFX web view in this case.
So where is that implemented? So where is that decided that this is the JavaFX web view?
Yeah, this is decided in the profile that you're using. The default config uses that.
So here's some other configs.
Yeah, there's also back to browser. We can try that.
Okay.
Okay, you see here, this is the change text.
Okay, so I want to add a new text.
But what you see is like if you do this start and stop stuff, they're disabled and enabled because they bind to something in the model.
Okay,
you saw that.
Yeah.
Right?
So how did that work? That disabling after I pressed it.
Have a look at the index.html. So let's say you press the start button.
Yeah.
So what you see is turn on is called.
Okay.
So let's go to turn on. Function turn on, model set on. Okay. So on the data model, the on property is set to true. Let's go back to the index.html. You can see this is enabled when on is not true. So it basically through the data binding it updates the state of the button automatically.
Okay, so how would I add? I want to add a new let this out eventually. How would I add a new text field to this? I want to add a new text field here now.
I'll go to the index HTML.
Index HTML. Okay, here I am.
Okay, just
so we would have a new input.
Copy that.
Yeah. And so this rotation stuff. Okay, we'll paste it here. Okay, and now how do I bind this to anything?
Well, you have to know the knockout binding expressions, how they work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could try. So what do we have in the data model? Let's have a look. We have something that we can bind to. We have the computed property message. No, go up there. Okay. We've got the message property, and we've got the on property in this case. Or you could add a new property.
Okay.
Of class string, maybe.
I'm coding with one hand because my other hand is holding a beer, so it's justifiable.
That's a fine way of coding. That's actually the best way of coding. Balancing a laptop on your knees while holding a beer in the other hand. And
okay, so here's a new property.
And let's call it text, and make it of string.
Okay.
Okay. And maybe initialize it.
Where?
So in the main. So if you go to main,
okay,
you should now be able to call d.set text.
Wow. So how does that work?
That's annotation processing.
So at when I saved, that was generated.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So text by Tony.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Toby is also.
Toby's also good. Yeah.
Okay, now go to index HTML, and now you could bind to text here. That should work.
And then after key down, what happens?
Nothing.
Okay.
But what you will see is probably what you will likely see is you will see a new text field with the text that you just entered. So you use Java to update the model,
yeah,
and it should now display.
It reminds me a little bit of Wicked in some ways.
Hi Tony, there it is. Well, the difference is that the component doesn't live on a server, but it lives on a client.
Sure. Yeah. So now you can use HTML to style this completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's really up to the designer. So it's a real designer-developer workflow, and that's cool because the designer can really use their favorite tooling to create any style, and this is just regular HTML. It's nothing fancy.
Yeah. So now you could create any kind of application in HTML and link it to with the back end, or the back end in a way. It's not really the back end, but Java behind the HTML.
Exactly. So you don't have to code JavaScript, and this is a huge benefit for large companies, enterprises, because they are afraid of using JavaScript because it's a maintenance nightmare. It's hard to maintain and hard to refactor because there's also no tooling support. Like in Java, you've got all this nice tooling support, code completion,
sure.
that works very nicely.
So now we have this text property. So how do we work with this function annotation in context with the text property that we created? So where were turn on and turn off used?
And they are used in a button.
So here we had buttons.
What you could do is like create a new button.
Okay.
You don't need to data bind it to anything.
Yeah.
So, but what you can do is remove the enable on. I'm not sure. I don't know the knockout
Sure.
bindings exactly, but let's try
But do we?
to just like remove the enable
Yeah.
and just keep the click, and now create a new function.
You
Like
function
copy
it.
the turn on.
Okay.
And instead you do a model set text and set text maybe.
Coding with one hand isn't always optimal.
You're doing fine, I think.
Okay.
So model set text,
And this should be data model.
right?
And then okay.
Mm-hmm. As you can see, you've got superior tooling support.
Yeah, definitely.
The text. Hi, Geertjan.
Hi, Tony.
Wow, you want to finish the session here?
Yes, it's a good moment.
No, I haven't shown you
Okay.
anything.
Okay, so
This is just scratching the surface.
so now what do we do with this set text? We
yeah,
go back to
that's
the-
fine. Yeah, go back to index, and
now
now
it says
do
set-
set text here.
And
Yeah, whatever.
say bye.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Hi.
Oh, it works.
Okay.
And you
So-
can see there's also a nice separation of business logic
Yeah.
and rendering
Yeah,
logic.
sure.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you want to do next?
Well, you can go to the go back to the Minesweeper.
Actually, this is pretty cool. This reminds me of FreeMarker. You know, this is kind of for each.
Yeah, like this for
Yeah,
each.
Yeah,
loop,
yeah. Okay, so,
So-
go.
Close the Minesweeper window and open it again. And now go to visit project page. So what you see there is probably the API doc. At least I hope so. Oh no, this is the java.net page. Okay. Go back to the start exploring here. Okay, so here you've got the Java doc. And here you can see the next level. So you've got obviously here this web component. It's a web view. And this is just regular HTML page displayed inside of NetBeans.
Mhm.
Okay, it works in any browser. You can open the same page outside of NetBeans.
Mhm.
If you scroll down,
Okay.
further down, no, a little bit up again, up again. I'm not sure. Maybe. Let me try. There should be a demo actually on this page, but let's have a look in at the same demo in the browser, because this is the same page. And what you can see here is JavaDoc,
Uh-huh.
and this JavaDoc contains a demo.
Mm.
And this is the same Minesweeper
Right.
application
Right.
that we just used,
Yeah.
but this time it's running inside a browser.
Cool.
And this is using, I think this demo is using TVM. There are two options for running those Java applications in the
Yeah.
browser.
Yeah.
One of them is vector browser, as you might recall,
Yeah.
which is a virtual machine written that executes in JavaScript. And TVM is another option that is a virtual machine, basically, or it's not a virtual machine, it's something that takes bytecode and compiles it to JavaScript. And this is what happens here. So you write your code, just the same code as we just saw it, and it is compiled to JavaScript in this case, like GWT, similar to that, or it's executed in back to browser. So there are several options, and there will probably be more. So there are more virtual machines. GWT is obviously an option to use for that, and .po is another one. And it also, so this is one demo, and this also works with iOS. So you can run the same game on the iPad, on the iPhone, and I can show you here because you don't have the developer tools. So you need a Mac to do that, but to run the demo. But I guess I can show it on my machine, so the other guys won't show.
The next screencast we do will be on your machine.
Okay. So there is tons of options, but the basic thing is not. I mean, tons of execution profiles basically, and deployment profiles. But the basic thing is really what you just saw. Like there is a binding between an HTML page and a data model that is written in Java, and you can use that to code applications in Java and use modern rendering technologies.
It's really a framework for displaying, creating business applications too, right? I mean, business applications, but either on a NetBeans platform or in a browser or on a mobile phone. Or
there's also Eclipse support.
It's amazing.
So you can create cross-platform plugins, plugins that work in Eclipse as well as in NetBeans.
It's incredible.
And
I think the biggest problem with this is it's so broad in scope that that's
the Jaroslav Tulach.
That's lookup. That's lookup.
That's like lookup. You can use it for anything, and it's you have to strip it down basically to one very specific use case and basically rebrand it to that use case, and then it's probably easier to understand. It's really extremely broad.
So thank you, and
welcome.
All the best with DukeScript in the Java and HTML
we
and
will.
any world.
We will rule the world.